For today's review, I wanted to talk about a classic horror movie, and that's Horror of Dracula. This is a Hammer Films production, and really put them on the map. And I would say I would still regard it as their best production, actually, and for good reason. This is a really great rendition of the Dracula tale from Bram Stoker. I would say almost like a condensed version of it. The thing is, I mean, the novel itself, it's so broad in scope that there's so many adaptations that can pick and choose certain aspects to highlight in the stories that they do, and maybe that was kind of like a criticism of the Coppola film, where maybe it bit off more than it could chew. But I like the epic feel to that film, so that's my opinion. But I can see how other people would be like, "This is a mess." So there's that. But this one, it's a fairly by the numbers, but still very well done and very atmospheric film, and it has some nice misdirection. And it's still, though the story of Dracula is known to everybody. The character, we know everything about, well, almost everything about Dracula from either the book or from movies or what have you. The character is always kind of being updated or added to, revised, but I think there's good twists to the story, like, I guess kind of depending how well you know or don't know the novel, it is a good misdirect for the opening scenes where it's the Jonathan Harker character being the librarian to Castle Dracula, and we kind of think it's going to follow him, but kind of in the back of our heads we know better. So he uncovers the horror of Dracula, and he is infected. He is bitten, and he's a goner basically. So that's pretty much it for him. So what it really focuses on is his friend Arthur, played by Michael Goff, and Van Helsing, Dr. Van Helsing, played by Peter Cushing in this version. So that's kind of cool how they sort of set it up that way. So it almost becomes, in a really weird kind of way, almost like this like Sherlock Holmes and John Watson type of mystery, where like it's Arthur and Van Helsing. They're kind of solving this mystery of what happened to their friend, what happened to their colleague. Is it really as absurd as it may be? Are we really in fact encountering Dracula, Count Dracula himself, a vampire? So that's kind of cool, and then there are some good twists to the story too. Like throughout the whole thing, it's they're trying to figure out how Dracula is getting around, and they're like, "Well, what's going on? Is he turning into a bat? No, that can't be it." And there's a good twist to it. I won't give that away. And yeah, it's just a really great atmospheric movie. The acting is really good for what's not the highest budget movie you'll see, but it is pretty genuine, I'd say. Michael Goff is great. Peter Cushing is great, absolutely great, and of course Christopher Lee as Dracula. Christopher Lee, one of the best Draculas. There's so many different interpretations of Dracula. It's hard to pick a favorite, but definitely Christopher Lee deserves mention among the best. And kind of what you'll notice about this movie is that, aside from maybe the first few scenes, he doesn't really have any dialogue, which I thought was interesting. So I don't know if that was something that they conceived of from the very beginning of wanting to do this movie, or if it's maybe something they kind of realized worked better. But really, the power and the attitude that Christopher Lee has as Dracula really just comes from his presence alone. Like, he doesn't need to say anything. Like in other Dracula movies, it'll be like, "I'm going to talk for 5 hours straight and seduce you." No, it's not like that. He just kind of, he has this manic presence, and it's really good. I thought, just this great attitude about him, this great presence, as only Christopher Lee can bring. So I would say in this case, absolutely, the less dialogue, the better. And I think Christopher Lee absolutely pulls off a great performance as Count Dracula, the classic character. So he well deserves mention, an absolute best renditions of this character. And while maybe choosing a Dracula, a favorite Dracula, is hard because there are so many different versions, I will actually say that Peter Cushing, I would say the best Van Helsing we've seen on screen of all time. I would say that. Take that, Hugh Jackman. Yeah, I showed him. But he's just excellent in the film. Absolutely excellent. And he does, kind of give off this Sherlock Holmes kind of vibe, which is cool. I like that. So, great atmosphere to this movie, and great set design. And it does have quite a few scary moments, too. I'll say that. Like, one of the moments that always stuck out for me about the movie, when Harker is, he finally uncovers everything, and that whole time there had been the woman in the castle who's under Dracula's spell, the young, busty woman, beautiful lady, who he finds as a vampire. He finds her in her crypt and stake through the heart. Then, she dies. Then you look back at her, she's like a shriveled old lady. It's like, ooh, that's creepy and unnerving. So I don't know, I just thought that was kind of a creepy scene. And at the very end, when Dracula is defeated, but is he ever defeated? There are some pretty cool effects there as well. Again, not like the biggest budget you'll ever see, but done pretty well, I'd say, in practical effects. So I thought it was well done. And yeah, just well, it's definitely not, an epic type of film. I think it gets a lot of things about the Dracula character and about the Dracula story that we find so compelling. Gets it, nails it right on the head. I would say that's not an expression. Hits the nail on the head. It gets it right, is what I'm trying to say. It's done very well. So I do think it's one of the best Dracula movies. So definitely hailed as a classic for good reason. Christopher Lee's performance hailed for good reason. Definitely worth checking out if you haven't. So again, great atmosphere, scary, and there's some good funny moments too. Like when they're trying to coax. I guess the guy who leases out the wagons into telling them, where Dracula's wagon is going. So this is all really well done, and I think it is, just an absolute classic. So I'm sure many people agree with me on that. So yeah, Horror of Dracula, or in some cases I think it's just called Dracula. I don't know. But Horror of Dracula, Hammer Films production, excellent Dracula film, well worth checking out. True to the character, true to the story. All around great horror movie. What better time to watch it than October, right? So definitely check it out if you haven't. But that'll be my review. It's probably all I have to say. So thanks very much for watching, and hopefully there will be more videos to come. And I'll keep an eye out for that, and I'll catch you later.